LG 2026 TV lineup filmed at their headquarters in New Jersey. Up next.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me as we check out LG's 2026 TV lineup. I attended LG's review workshop at their headquarters in New Jersey. What an incredible day. So much to see, so much to film. I ended up filming the C6 and G6 together. So this isn't really a comparison. They just happen to be side by side. I absolutely love the C series and I'm so happy to see it get so much love this year. It was my comeback kid of CES in 2026. Today, you're going to see the 77-inch C6H. The H is for the hyper radiant panel that was on last year's G5 and also this year's G6. However, the story for LG, in my opinion, is not really the panel. It's the Alpha 11 Gen 3 processor, and the C series will get that at all sizes. For me, that's the real difference. But it was a true gift to be able to see these two side by side. You also see the B6 at 83 in this video, though it got its own video. The B series needs some love. Without further ado, let's check out the LG C6 77-inch and the LG G6 at 65 inches. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, let's do it. Here we are at LG headquarters with their 2026 OLED TV lineup. You have the 65-inch G6, the 77-inch C6H, and then the 83-inch B6. I love the B series. As I mentioned in the intro, it will have its own video, and here are all three. All the way on the right is the 65-inch G5 that I didn't capture in this video, as I will have a C6H that I've already ordered from Value Electronics that will be going against my very own G5. So we'll have a very special video on that. And over my right shoulder is the W6, which I'll also film separately at a later date. Now you may ask yourself why these are set up this way and why aren't they the same size? Well, I think they're looking for the consumer's perspective of what they would spend, meaning would you get yourself a larger 83-inch B6 instead of a 65-inch G6, which is very helpful. This is the way we recommend buying TVs all the time in the chat and in our videos. What would you rather prefer? A more value-based TV at a larger size, or a smaller TV, or the 77-inch C series right in the middle? Now, as I mentioned also in the intro, the C6H now has the hyper radiant panel that was on the G6 and also on the G5, making the C series closer than ever to the G series. Now, I do think if the G6 was larger, you may see a larger gap between the two, but it's amazing seeing the differences between all three here. An absolute gift for me to be able to capture this for you guys. Let's take a quick look at the build quality and the design of the C6H 77-inch OLED. You have your traditional C-series design with the one single blade center stand, very thin. The C-series has always had a very elegant but simple design, and as years have gone on, it's actually become a lighter TV, yet the build quality is excellent. For me, the C-Series is legendary. It was a TV that I always wanted back in the C7, C8, and the C9. And then my first one was a CX. I currently still am rocking an 83-inch C1 and a C4. However, in the last few years, the G-Series and the C-Series have been far apart, not just in terms of the changes in design, but in terms of their processing and image quality. That said, for me, the C-Series in the last few years has been more than bright enough and still very beautiful, but the G-Series was clearly far ahead. That ends this year. As you also heard in the intro, the 77-inch and the 83-inch C6 is called the C6H for Hyper Radiant. However, that isn't the big news for me. It's not just the panel. All the sizes will have the new Alpha 11 Gen 3 processor. To me, even the smaller size C-Series from a few years ago, even the C4 that I have, is still very bright. There's videos where I have my smaller C4 go against the G5 and other competitors' OLEDs, and it's ultra bright. It's the processing that's the big jump this year, especially with the G6 versus the G5. Now, the C6 has that at every size. And for me, I'm happier with the processing change versus just the panel change. Now, ultimately, I wish I had the Hyper Radiant panel at all the sizes in the C-Series, but trust me, seeing these TVs in person and spending time with them for many years now, the brightness is just part of the story. It is the processing that keeps the color and detail there with the brightness. That, for me, is most important. That's the big jump you're seeing this year with the G6, and now it's also here on the C6. We also have the jump from 144 Hz to 165 Hz for HDMI 2.1 NVIDIA G-Sync. LG OLEDs are among the best gaming TVs year after year in the industry. But what's going to really set the C-Series apart now, not just with the new processor or with the Hyper Radiant panel at the larger sizes, it's also going to be one of the only high-end, but yet still at a reasonable value-based TV with a glossy screen. That is going to be more rare this year than ever. Let's move on to the LG G6. Now, the G6 is LG's 2026 flagship alongside the W6. The W6 is basically a G6 with the wallpaper design and the wireless connect box. We'll do a separate video on the W6 as it deserves its own video. But what I love about what LG is doing is no matter what the industry is doing, OLED is still king for LG and still for me in the TVs that I purchase for myself. Case in point, last year I bought the 83-inch LG G5. Now, LG does have other offerings. They do have micro RGB and their QNED lineup, which we will also cover in separate videos, but they want to focus primarily on OLEDs. The micro RGB and QNED, while they do have smaller sizes, LG wants to discuss them at larger than 83-inch sizes, as the 97-inch OLEDs are still rather expensive. So they want you to have the choices, but it's clear that OLED is still the focus. And I do still feel that OLED is the best overall image quality in the business. Now, while we discuss the differences with the LG C6 and the large jump that you're seeing in regards to the Hyper Radiant panel and the processor, you're going to see less of a jump on the G6 versus the G5. What you're going to see with the G6 is more refinement, more detail, and retaining color the brighter the TV gets. The G5 did that amazingly well. You wouldn't lose color luminance or saturation when the TV got very bright, and the G5 was extremely bright. You're seeing that with the G6, but even further. It's all about retaining detail with the G6 and keeping that color saturation when the TV is pushed very hard. The LG engineers also had an excellent demo with the G6, then the G5 on the right, and then also two competitors on the left showing real-world content. And in that demonstration, it was all about detail in the brightest areas without any banding or posterization, and the results were excellent. Now, while I was free to film that demonstration, I much rather show you the G6 versus the competitors' 2026 TV models and the G5 at our spring event at Value Electronics. Then you'll have endless amounts of content to see these TVs go against the current competition, and I think the G6 will do amazing. The LG workshops are among the best because nothing is hidden. Everything there can be filmed. My only complaint is there is too much to see and too much to film. They also have incredible sound options this year with Flex Connect. I didn't film any of that as I am primarily a TV guy, but let's put them together. That way you can see the 77-inch C6H on the left versus the flagship 65-inch G6 on the right. It's very important to have content on these TVs that goes above and beyond 1,000 nits. So a very special thanks to the one and only Jennifer Gala and her second channel, HDR Super Channel, for all her amazing work seen within this video and intro. Check the description below for links to both channels. Consider becoming a Patreon member to Jennifer Gala's main channel for access to all this amazing content in both Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. Thank you so much, Jen. Now, looking at this amazing content again at 3000 nits on the C6H 77-inch and the G6 at 65 inches. It's all about the subtle differences in specular highlights. Look at the middle of the glass on the G6. You can see where it is brighter versus the C6. But look how amazingly close they are. Now, if the G6 was 77 inches, the differences perhaps would be more evident. Take your time looking at the images, perhaps pause the video or even slow it down. There is a distinct difference in terms of the peak brightness, but again, incredible to see how close the C6 comes to the G6. Now, in regards to the G5, you're going to see me compare the C6 at either 77 or 83 against my 83-inch G5. I do feel the G5 is still brighter than the C6. So G5 owners, rejoice, you are still good. I am one of you, and I don't care what anyone else says, guys. I know this content and I own a lot of these TVs, so I'm not just looking at demo material, but you're gonna see me critically view the C6H when I get it into my studio. But the fact that it comes close to even the G6 or the G5 is such an accomplishment, and again, that processing is gonna be the difference. Though the G5 has definitely cleaned up the issues that it had earlier in the year due to several updates, the G5 is still incredible. What's also improved over the excellent G5 is the reflection handling. The G5 was already the best glossy screen in the business in regards to reflection handling. The G6 takes that further. So does the C6, but you can see between the two, the G6 handles it better. This is a very hard room to film in. There are lights above me and TVs all behind me. I can't exactly ask them to turn all the lights off for just me. I did the best that I could. But the reflection handling, while still being able to remain glossy, is also a gift, especially for enthusiasts that don't want to see anti-glare or matte treatments. Now, getting back into the Alpha 11 Gen 3 processor, what it really does better than what the Alpha 11 Gen 2 processor did is cleaning up the banding and posterization. I'm not big on reading specs. I'm completely unscripted. I'm not AI. So I'm really just telling you what I see. In the demos versus the competitor and the G5, even in very bright scenes, it cleaned up any of the color banding that wasn't just present on the G5, but also on the competitors. That little bit of detail, that cleaning up, really requires more processing power, and that's what the Alpha 11 Gen 3 processor is doing, not just on the G6, but also on the C6. They've also added some additional customization settings in the professional tone mapping area of the presets. And speaking of presets, the flexibility of image is one of LG's strengths. They're really the only manufacturer to have a Dolby Vision Filmmaker preset. And this year, both Filmmaker in Dolby Vision and in HDR10 is more accurate than it's ever been. However, you do have that flexibility in the other presets to be as saturated and as bright as you like. I do love the personalized picture wizard that I use on my own LG TVs that really does take your tastes into account when you go through several different scenes. That also carries over to Dolby Vision. And in Dolby Vision, they have the most flexibility of image, where a lot of other manufacturers have just a few choices. You'll see that that personalized picture wizard that carries over to Dolby Vision can give you a very bright image in Dolby Vision without getting into vivid. And it will still track as accurate as possible. My favorite aspect of LG's review workshops is talking TVs with the engineers. They do pay attention to the comments. They do hear the feedback. That's why you see LG follow up with their updates even now on TVs from years ago. They do want to win the shootout. They do correct things that they find throughout the year. And talking with them about that is amazing. I'm not talking to the marketing team or even other creators. My interest is talking to those that build the TVs, those that really focus on the improvements year after year. So please take the time to comment in detail about what you think of the LG C6H at 77 inches and the LG G6 at 65 inches, as well as the B6. I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Love you guys. Take care.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. There can be only one.